Oh, this would be number 3. I'm doing a little work. I'm fixing a few things. But what we want to talk about today is Social Security in Corpus Christi as the meth funder for the city of Corpus Christi. You know, because I explained in the last video that my retirement was cut in half. I'll be 57 July 17th. When you're 62, I was always saying, eventually you get your check. Because of some of the dealings I had with them, they kind of cut contact off. And I asked them, I said, what about when I'm 62? And this seems to be a question whether or not at the age of 62, which is called early retirement, they seem to be saying I'm not going to even get my check, ever, because of some of the stuff I've been discussing. That's an amazing thing. They didn't respond when I asked that. I'll give you a little history. Because of I had pretty bad back injuries, just to the point where the type of job I did, which I did for 25 years, I could not, at least in that type of job, I couldn't do anymore. Look, I couldn't even get up in the morning for a period of time. But still, I did 25 at the fire department. But I said, you know, I'm going to try to get, sometimes there's ads that say early retirement, like when you're 57. And of course, my experience with all of these guys in the street that had no work history, 0. And they've been getting checks forever. I said, well, maybe because of my credits. So when I initially said, I'm going to see, it's like an early retirement because you cut my retirement hat. When I first went down to Port Street and showed him, I said, look, he looked at my work history, which he admitted was, oh, you put a lot in. He said, you had so many credits. And then he looked at me and said, if I were you, I would sue them. He told me that in 2008. It was a person working for Social Security on Port Street. He said, if I were you, John, I would file a lawsuit. I always thought that was strange because that was my first contact with these people. So over time I said, well, you guys are advertising, I've paid a lot into the system. I'm looking to see if I could get it. To me, it would be like the money that they took from cutting my retirement in half, which I wish they never took Social Security out of them. So through a process, 10 years, myself going before judges. Over time, I said, these are legitimate things, the ones that I showed, the injuries. But there's other things I didn't want to get checked for when I got into VA. Because I feel like, you know, but I had to, one time when I went to VA, they're like, we're going to check you for a lot of things. I said, no, I don't want to get checked for a lot of things. People that drink, I've had friends, just because they had the treatment for the liver, that was it. They got a disability check. No work history. I thought, now, through my process of time with them, but at one point I had to bring my VA doctor thing, which was a limited, I told them, check for limited thing. And I told him, he wrote it down himself, my VA doctor. I told him, I don't want medication for this thing. I didn't know that he wrote that. When that went before the judge, besides all the other things, she said, well, you said you didn't want medicine for that. I said, you got to understand, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I don't want to be on opioids or any of that. But from what I understood, just the diagnosis for something that I didn't even want to ask about. And then they sent me a letter that said, you got to wait until you're terminal. That Social Security never gives checks unless people, in that case, are terminal, 3 months left or whatever. Then I knew you guys are lying. They said, but you can do other jobs. I said, sure. So I can't do the one I'm trained for. They said, we will never give ever a check to people that can do any job. Now, I knew they lied. They said that in their official court things. Said, you guys are lying. There's people that I explained. Then this is what they said was, pretty much everything you presented will qualify you, but you have an insufficient work history. I blew my top. They said, you don't have, after they said you got 25 years and probably paid about $180,000 into that. So what do you mean? They said when you got injured in 2008 and then you applied like a month later or whatever, that was the back injury, they said you were no longer working. So, well, what do you mean? Well, when you got injured and then applied like a month or whenever it was, you were not on the job. I said, well, that's because I was injured. Therefore, you were not working at the time of the injury. Now, look, these people are corrupt. And they play a game with you. And when they said that, and because the way I am, I said, I'm going to go myself. I'm going to represent myself. I realized they're a scam. And they know damn well that they're getting paid off in this Social Security place. They know damn well that these guys that are getting checks are Meth checks. And they take money and they take kickbacks. And you have corruption. So that's just a little history of when I realized, I said, oh, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me to say, oh, you qualify for these various things you're diagnosed for, but because you said you don't want opioids, therefore, and then the letter, you got to wait. They sent me a letter. We have things for terminal diseases, but you got to be in the last stages, so you don't give a check to someone with a work history like mine, actually related to fire injury, because the original back injury was picking up a football player in an ambulance. And I'm not asking for free. I said, you took half of my damn money. And then you say, insufficient work history. One of the letters said, you would qualify, Mr. Chirillo, if you never worked. I thought that was a lie. And then when I went to the judge and I said, are you telling me if I never worked, I would qualify? That's what that said. I couldn't believe they sent that to me. They said, because you worked, with the same correspondence that later said you had an insufficient work history. I said, what do you mean if I never worked, I would qualify? They said, yes, you fit a different criteria now. Okay? This is giving you insight into this place.